Welcome everybody, and it's a very exciting LAMSIG Live today. We're joined by Dr. Joseph Rios. Joseph, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, Joseph, you've helped large international organizations and many a manager with communication. I think you completed your PhD at Stanford University on the anthropology of human communication.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you've been the pedagogy lead at Google,
Yes.
leadership consultant at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology,
Yeah.
and you're currently founder and CEO at, is it Decoded? Am I
Yeah.
pronouncing?
Yeah. It's a tricky name, but once you understand it's related to decoding things, it's decoded. Yes.
Great. So tell us where you're based and what takes up most of your time right now.
Well, I'm based in Silicon Valley, and what takes up most of my time? That's a great question. I spend a lot of time researching and speaking with colleagues, especially at Google, other tech companies, about how AI is impacting human communication at work. I'm really yeah, and the future of that, and what leaders can do to prepare for a future when AI is influencing language usage in a way we've never seen before. It's kind of cracked the code or hacked it, the code of human language, and through predictive modeling. And so that where does that leave us humans in not just in general, but specifically in how we're going to communicate going into the future? So if you're a leader, and again, I think we've talked about this a little bit about cross-generationally.
Mm.
How are they going to be communicating in ways that are different from, say, leadership layers going up? How is the world going to communicate in general at work when so much of the heavy lifting stuff is being removed, and we have to be more, work face to face in different ways? The question, though, is whether that face to face will minimize how and not minimize, but minimize in the sense that where we use language less but differently. Will it have that effect? Or will it be that we stop talking altogether? Will it be in a form that's more about being more actively involved in communication because it's the only thing left because the actual labor, heavy lifting of certain tasks are gone. What will be left will be essentially decision making and communication around decisions and speed of which they're made. So on that spectrum, where are we going? And so that's what I talk to folks a lot about, my former colleagues at Google and
Mhm.
other companies, but also my own research.
It's very interesting. And just as you were talking there, it kind of brought to light
Mhm.
two comments I heard from two different colleagues just in the last month. One of them was a kind of a warning. It was we had a group of people submitting assignments for a teacher training
Mhm.
course, and the tutor said, "Listen, guys." Maybe it's because we're being so influenced by artificial intelligence. Your language actually sounds as though it's AI generated. And everyone's saying, no, I didn't use AI. Go, fine, but we're
Yeah.
actually moving towards sounding like these
Right.
AI sort of.
Right. And the irony there is that we're the original generators, right? We created that language, and the machine is now generating its version of what we created. And its version of what we created is the most standardized. Based
Mm,
on it's
mm,
based on probability, they find
well,
the best relationship between words, the best collocations
yeah,
based
right.
on statistical probability. And so they regurgitate that to us. And we're all happy. Wherever you are on the spectrum of ability to write in English, if you're, say, like a lot of my colleagues from Korea or whatever, writing English can be really difficult. But they're all happy because now their English sounds like a native.
Yeah.
And if you're a native at the upper end, I find actually what happens is ChatGPT or other tools can help you improve your language actually because you'll see things you didn't see in the standard form
Oh, that's
because
interesting. Right.
yeah, I think it works both ways. So but I call it sort of centralization, and
Mm,
that's the crux of the problem. What are we going to do with that? What impact will that have on the rest of us in our daily lives and at work? That's
mm.
what I've researched.
So you also mentioned that idea that the kind of the heavy certain amount of lifting linguistically speaking
Mhm.
has been
Mhm.
done by AI, and that
Right.
brings me to another comment I heard by Lucy Cottrell, actually, is another member
Oh,
of the
okay.
LAMSIG committee,
Mhm.
and she was getting frustrated because every time she was trying to get through to somebody. She was talking to, an AI generated voice.
Yeah, a lot.
And basically kind of she said it almost seems like now a unique selling point is talking to a human being and communicating on a one-to-one.
Right, right. Yeah, that's one of the arguments that I support is that and actually proactively encourage is that we go to what we do best, which is that human interaction, which
Mm.
is uh, all those things that are implied in human interaction, like warmth, empathy, the ability to read the moment
Okay.
and define meaning through interaction, as opposed to something formulaic that has been defined by a statistic probability that,
Mm.
when if I'm a chatbot, then I can predict that what you've just said will require, X answer
Yeah.
instead of that kind of interaction, right? And so I'm saying we need, as educators and especially language educators, to double
Mhm.
down on that. Be very proud of that. That's what we do. We help humans communicate with
Yeah.
humans. And I think, secondly, to your point, or that point of your colleague, is that is going to be a differentiator for every workplace because not all companies are going to be. Remember when the internet came out, everybody thought the brick and mortar company would be gone, that you wouldn't want
Mm.
stores. But that's
Mm.
not true. And more than ever, we want stores because you want to go in and try on those shoes.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing we're going to want in the future, I predict, and I'm going to support the idea of having human interaction as a high value item. But the question is, these other things that I'm alluding to, like non-communication, those things are looming as well.
Okay.
Boring communication or flat communication, AI communication, that's looming all around us. So to what degree are we going to step forward and utilize what our greatest skill is as humans? And if that's valuable to us, maintain a future that is maintain a present into the future that really emphasizes what we do best as humans, which is we
Mm.
solve problems with people, for people, not for machines.
That's a good point. Yeah. Wow.
That's what we use language for, I believe.
Yeah. So thinking about helping leaders and managers, let's
Yeah.
take a profile of maybe a new manager.
Mhm. Sure.
Come in there in charge of a team of, I don't know, between 6 and 10 others, and maybe there's an issue. Maybe they need to make a change. Very often, that's why a new
Mhm.
manager comes in.
Mhm.
Um, is there any advice, any tips you might give that new manager immediately as regards communication nowadays?
Yeah, yeah, I think nowadays especially, but again, I'm talking about my experiences mostly in tech and in the
Yeah,
corporate world.
yeah, yeah.
But I was 12 years director of public education in Silicon Valley schools as well. So I think the same strategy applies. When I started at Google, the first thing I did was I got to know everybody on my team. There are 26 members of the team.
Okay.
And how did I get to know them? I met them personally. Now,
Mm,
we couldn't always because we were working virtually around the world,
okay.
but I set up times, private times to chat with them.
Good. Yeah.
But I had a very specific strategy. It was to get to know them as a person. Now, how do you do that without being invasive? Right. Well, in tech, I just asked a question about their work. And I knew what each one of them was doing
Yeah.
professionally. So I would get to know them so that when we'd have an all hands meeting, and it was my turn to talk. And I was the outsider because I came in as an anthropologist, as a non-tech. I mean, it was like I had nothing to do with their world, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a tech company. It wasn't an anthropology company,
Yeah.
Google. So I found that right away, I had their ears. They'd get off their screens. They'd be listening to Joe because they'd all interacted with me previously. So I think
Okay.
that human contact,
Connection first.
spontaneous, initiated contact, I went out of my way to make those things happen. And
Okay.
these guys are all very private, very very distant and high level guys, but I
Yeah.
made sure that I interacted. I didn't miss an opportunity to get to know them. That was step number one. Step number two, as I'm leading, if I were leading a team, I had my own team that I led,
Mm,
um, de facto, because at Google nobody leads anything really. But
okay.
but right, but I know in public ed, I had a team of 50. Well, I had 50 people
Mm,
working
mm,
directly in this program. And it was always the same thing is that you once you earn a little trust, that whole step is about trust building. It's
mm.
the first step in trust. The
Yeah.
second part of it is really trusting people to use their ideas, their creative ideas, and go out and experiment with them, and then let's see how they work. And then if they are successful in something, then bringing them that back to the group to share with everyone, so that everyone has a sense of validation, professional validation, and growth. So it's all about my staff. It's all about them. Um, you can
Mm,
call this whatever kind of leadership you want, service
yeah.
leadership, whatever title you want to throw at it. But it's really starts there for me, because
Hmm.
then you have a group that when you get inspired about an idea at a higher level and you
Yeah.
need them to work with you, you have credibility and trust.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
You've
mean,
got to earn that early.
yeah, you've got to, and there are so many connections as you were talking there. I was just seeing
Mhm.
so many connection points about between. We're talking about management, and management, I think, is almost ubiquitous, no matter what the sector and what we're talking about. Obviously,
Yeah,
communication is.
everyone.
But if we go to a teaching context,
Hmm.
you remember effective teachers from your past, from primary school or whatever. But it's because that human being, that teacher, has connected with you on a human level, and
Yes.
you were then attentive, and you go, right,
Yeah.
you've got me.
Yes,
Uh,
that's right. That's right. That's the sentence I use. You know
right.
when somebody gets you, and it's gold. And how many teachers did we have that were like that? One, two, maybe.
Yeah, but they're the ones that
They're the
inspire
ones.
you, that you remember.
Right, and they validated my intelligence and my creative intelligence, I
Mm,
would call it, my human intelligence, to say that, yeah, because we're unfortunately in schools we're broken down by often by a system that really caters to an upper 10 or 20%. Those who learn well with the left brain quickly, rapidly, and they're tested on it, and
right.
they're called good and smart. And
Mm,
it's based on things validated by IQ tests and things. It's such a minority. The vast majority of us are learning and teaching ourselves in lots of other very interesting ways that aren't even documented. Um,
mm,
but we're going to go more, we can slip into the woodwork very easily. So when you have a teacher who says, oh yeah, I get you, and they just have to say a few things, and you can just relax.
yeah.
You're soulagé, as they say in French. You can just let it all out, and you know that you're okay, because we're all looking first and foremost to fit in and belong. That's all we
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
We want to
Validation.
be part of it, right? So validation.
Wonderful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've all had, I guess, moments in our lives where communication has not worked, has not gone to plan.
Yeah.
Um, what would a manager, so I've experienced this, I've been in a meeting, a team meeting. I've said to my team X, Y, and Z. I thought
Hmm.
that's the message I want to give because of X, Y, and Z. And I've
Hmm.
gone away and I thought, right, well, that went well. And
Hmm.
then there seems to be a bit of hullabaloo in, and things don't work out the way I had expected.
Right.
Where do I begin there? What do I
Yeah,
do?
rule number one of communication to teams is make sure that all expectations are clear. You don't leave a room unless what you expect from them and their responses to your expectations are understood by you. It's like if I go to our famous McDonald's here, and they're all trained to do one thing when the order's done. They say, so you're having a burger, fries, and a
Okay,
milkshake.
double
And you
check.
say, yeah, yeah, you need to validate. So you need to, in the other sense of validation,
Yeah.
you need to be sure that all expectations are even and met, so that no one is going to get into that situation later. This is how you retain employees. This is how you keep them happy. They always know what they're doing. They know what level of work they're supposed to be delivering when, all those
Okay.
expectations. So rule
Yeah.
number one is really setting expectations and having people repeat back what you've said to be
Mm.
sure. And it helps them. And
Okay.
they and we
Mm.
always you'll see it's very clear they get it wrong. Not they, like there's a
Yeah.
bad,
Right. Yeah. Or
but we all get it wrong because we're half listening or whatever. So that's why we do that. It's precaution.
mm, And again, I'm going to bring a connection back to teaching. So in our
Please.
sector, what we do is when we give our English language learners instructions, what we do then is we deliver what's called ICQs, instruction check questions.
Mhm.
So we would check the instructions. So
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that's what you're kind of almost saying,
Yeah.
is saying just make sure that those instructions have landed in the correct way to the.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Have they landed? And I like that. I'm going to restructure it though. I'm going to call them ICQs. It's a lovely term. No,
Okay.
no. You can play with that. It's actually a great set of letters to play with.
Yeah.
ICQs.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Oh, we get language people in the same room. This is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the something else I've experienced in communication is the blame game. So the I said this, you said that. No, you didn't. You can't.
Yeah.
How, what do we do if that arises?
Well, that gets into what I call more assertive education and assertive communication. I mean, that's where you have to call someone out on that. If depending on the stakes and whether you think it's the right time to do it, and
Mm,
depending on the person and the power relationship. But if you are able to call that out, and this is one of the things we don't do enough of in communication, which is assert the elephant in the room, or even what I might call in the extreme an injustice, where something's just really inappropriate or unfair. And if you really feel that someone keeps blaming, one of the hardest things to do is stop and say, when you do that it and then you can really talk about the impact it has on you when you do that
mm,
because really
interesting.
that's what we're leaving out of that communication equation. It's highly formulaic actually. Human beings, we have very old systems of relating and communicating
Mm,
through language, and so much of it has turned unspoken. And depending on who you're talking to, the person, they can be very direct and say, "Look, we stop blaming. That's all you ever do."
yeah.
That's more violent communication. You can do that in a very direct but very polite way and say, "Hey, look, maybe we could redirect this conversation a different way because I'm uncomfortable doing that."
That's a good
Um,
point. Yeah.
so it's getting to the source of the problem because you're never going to stop the blaming if someone's a blamer,
Yeah.
but
If you, it's a vicious circle,
you
isn't
could set a boundary though and say, I really that's not really I think productive in this
it? Sounds
situation, or
correct. Yeah.
it's something I'm very uncomfortable with,
Mm,
or you could find a way to frame it, but that's getting to the source of it rather than a palliative and just kind of
yeah.
massaging something.
That's
You
a
really
good
get to the
point.
bottom of it. It's
Yeah.
my thought.
Mm. I'm going to ask you maybe a question that might make you a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know, but
Mhm.
so
Go
I
ahead.
mentioned I mentioned some of the sort of situations maybe that I've experienced myself.
Sure.
Can you think of a difficult situation, a problem that you've had, and sort of tell us how you got round it so that we can we can benefit from that experience?
Well, one of the things that comes up a fair amount for me is cross-cultural
Mm,
miscommunications, where, to me, cross-cultural miscommunications where you hit a nerve and you're triggered, emotionally triggered so much
yeah.
that pretty much you have only one thing to do, which is react in your go-to way, which is your monocultural, your own perspective way. When in fact, what that situation requires is for you to calm down and try and understand the other culture. But it's very hard if you don't understand that culture. So I work with people from all over the world, and I've had it happen where it was really disconcerting because um, um, I was working off maybe, I come from a very litigious culture, one where when the word contract comes up, we're very analytical about it, and
Yeah.
we're very if it's not involved, then we're very relaxed.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just recently had this happen where someone asked me if I could help them on a project. This is in Asia, and then suddenly brought up a contract, which is very rare for Asians, but they said they needed to do it this way based on this situation.
Mm.
And so then I just responded very directly with, okay, we're going to talk contracts different. I thought we were just having a gentleman's agreement, to put it one
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
And and no, and that person got very not they took it personally almost because it
Oh,
was as if I was doing a favor for them just to get these documents through a pipeline and that we didn't need to worry about them later, what the documents actually said. And
oh,
it's probably true actually. It's probably
yeah.
actually would have played out that way. But for me, yeah, see, look, you're responding the same way I am. There's
Mm.
no way I'm going to sign a paper like that, right?
Yeah.
And so the friendship gets blended with the documentation. It gets
Mm-hmm.
confused and
Interesting. Yeah.
conflated as, oh, well, then you don't trust me. And because, and here's the crux, the meaning was implied. And this goes back to all my work in communication. It looked on the surface that we were just having this conversation, but the deeper meaning for this person was that as a friend, you'll do me this favor. But for us, there's a limit our definition of how we do friendship in the West is very different from how
Mm,
you do friendship in
yeah.
other countries, right?
I,
Especially
I,
in
I
America.
I don't ask you to sign something for us to go and have a coffee type thing.
Yeah, yeah, or to help you get a grant so
Right.
that
Yeah.
afterwards you can just pretend that didn't get signed. But what I've done is signed off my life in that little contract, so the trust is is defined there by something that's extremely interpersonal
Mm,
and if
yeah.
ethereal, and it's not ever written in word. It's actually a contradiction within a contradiction. So those kinds of things really stump Joe. Joe, and they don't happen a lot, but when they happen, it's just like I am
Wow.
spinning. What, I know nothing in those moments. Like, what do I do?
Okay.
So what I do is I go to my friends from those countries and we
Yeah.
all sort of get together.
Yeah.
I get good advice, then I go back.
Is
So
that
this is
what
why
you did? Yeah. Sort of
Oh yeah, what I did, the
try and
solution
yeah.
was
Yeah.
as a leader, I can't if I see an error and I'm making a mistake, I've got to go get, face it and
Yeah.
then
And then go
feel it
right.
because I get
Yeah.
really frustrated. And then dealing with it is really using all resources. And I always go to who would know best, who really knows this stuff better than
Interesting.
anyone.
Yeah.
And it's typically one of my colleagues from that country who'd say,
Right.
Joe, Joe, you completely missed the point. So then they'll say, "Okay, do this, and this." So
Yeah.
that's one example. But there's so many miscommunication
I
examples
can
of this.
imagine, yeah. But look what just 2 points you've taken away yourself from that incident. One, as a manager, you've got to, and this is something we've said in previous LAMSIG lives, have the trust and confidence in and wisdom in yourself to say, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm going to find a solution.
Good.
And then I think the second point is to say, right, I don't have all the answers. And let's go find help. And
Find
I
them.
think
Find
some
it. Find
managers are
them.
not very good at asking for help sometimes.
Right. Right. I think it's a problem for many of us. It's just
Mm,
our nature, I think. But yeah, you're supposed to know everything. But no, I think the hardest part is admitting really quickly your failure, your weakness, your mistake, or
mm,
whatever, really
mm.
fast, and then getting right to trying to fix it
Yeah.
instead of instead of punishing yourself or allowing someone to punish you for it. That's irrelevant. I mean, it's unproductive. So you've got to, as a leader, make sure the conversation goes from acceptance and honesty, truth,
Yeah.
to moving forward and making sure or doing your best to make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's
Mm,
all those steps. How can we make this so it doesn't
yeah.
happen again,
Yeah.
and so on. But you've got to be able to face the error immediately. And
I,
it can be very hard to do.
Yeah, I think that for me, I'm going to talk personally, was a
Mm,
sign of me maturing as a manager or leader when I realized, and I actually, it sounds a bit strange, but almost look forward to the moments where I did make a mistake because I knew I
mm,
would learn and therefore I wouldn't make that mistake again in the future. So it was like,
mm,
oh, I'm developing.
mm.
Is almost
Yeah.
celebrate those moments as learning opportunities.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like those opportunities for a different reason, and it's weird for the two of us to be saying like but in my case, it's what it does is it awakes a challenge feeling in me. I come
Mm,
back and I go, okay,
yeah.
um, yeah, I'm not going to let this keep me down. I'm not going to go down there. What did I do wrong? I do all the analysis and I go. So I come back energized
Brilliant. Yeah.
because of all the things you said. I don't want to do it again or whatever. But it's more than that. It's like what because there's a precursor to this. What happened that I made? Why did I make that decision to begin with?
Mhm.
Right? How did I get down that pathway? And then there's the postmortem. But so going in is it I get back, I do the reverse engineer of I go, well, I made that decision. Well, why did I make that decision? And that
Ah,
gets really interesting. Yeah, why
that's
did I
an
do it that way?
interesting question.
And you get into all the emotions, man. We make so many decisions emotionally as
Yeah,
leaders. Way too
very
many.
good. I think that's very valuable. Yeah, why did I make that decision? Yeah, why did I do that?
How did I get into this anyway?
Mm,
What led me there? And
yeah,
sometimes the answer is easy. It's just it was my best thinking for the moment. But
yeah.
then
At that time,
other times they were emotional decisions that were probably not needed.
good point. Yeah, I'm hungry, for example, maybe, and I
Yeah.
reacted in the wrong
Yeah.
way.
I think the leaders role is just decision making all over the place
Yeah.
under stress. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's just you're constantly being asked to to make the final judgment, final
Yeah.
call.
But
And
notice what you said then. Obviously, a good manager leader has to be very self-reflective.
I believe so.
And although not overly critical, I
Yeah,
would say
overthinking doesn't help anyone, no.
no.
But really self-aware.
Yeah.
You have to analyze and be self-aware. Know where your Achilles heel is. What are your triggers? That's what I work on most with all of my top clients because they
Wonderful.
don't see them. They don't see them because they're really strong personalities and very
Okay.
smart and very accomplished and they're almost untouchable up there. But
Right.
if they bring me in, we talk about everything.
So, Joe, one last question, if you don't
Mhm.
mind.
Mhm.
But
Of
just
course.
thinking back only a couple of years, maybe, what advice would you give your pre-manager self?
Ooh, I thought that's a question I've been asked actually before,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's interesting to note that it's changed over time. And at this point in my life, it's one thing. It's don't hesitate.
Mm,
There's no if you have a good idea, an impulse as a leader, you're in
yeah,
an organization, you have an impulse, a thought,
yeah,
and it's an improvement of some kind. There's a problem and you see an improvement. Don't hold back. Get it out there because a couple things are happening, especially in today's workplace.
yeah,
Other people will latch onto that idea, they'll build on it, and it'll transform into something even greater. The sum of the
yeah.
parts is greater than the whole. So that rule applies. But too often we hold back, we think no, or we're shy, or all those other things that
Hmm.
weigh us down cognitively. Another one, a big one, is that's come up a lot at this juncture in my life is really to be able to really trust that your thinking, your ideas, no matter how crazy they may be, are worth sharing because of that same rule that you'd be surprised how many people that you're working with can latch onto that idea and then
Right.
build on it. But it starts with this if non-hesitation is one thing, it's self-trust in your ideas. You
Mm,
got so as a leader, very often you'll be in an organization. This happened to me when I was director of schools. We were running this program for second language learners, basically.
hmm.
Silicon Valley was changing rapidly, and a lot of Chinese, Russians from all backgrounds were coming, and the school system was not prepared for it. So we needed to have a program that would cater to both their English needs, but also the curriculum development needs and all the learning across curriculum,
Mm,
but in a second language. So we had to retrain all the teachers. So we created a systematic formula, both in terms of the language training for the teachers and how to work with second language learners from these various countries, as well as outcomes for the culture, what to improve. So in that environment, I had so many creative ideas and I hesitated at first. But then once I got in the groove and I realized, wait a minute, there's a gap here. So much of leadership is filling a gap. You see a gap and then
mm,
you jump in and you fill it.
yeah.
And they're all over the place. So the question is, it's Shakespearean to speak up or not to speak up.
That is the question. Yeah. Wonderful.
We hold back way too much. That's what I've learned.
A very, very useful takeaway.
Yeah.
Don't want to steal any more of your valuable time. We've
Thank you.
had, I don't know, a very fruitful conversation with lots to take away. I'm sure there'll be lots of managers and leaders in ELT who'll be very happy to watch this again and again because there's lots to take away. So, Joe, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you through the different channels, and I wish you the best of luck. And I'm so happy that you guys put together these little segments, and I think they were here in my seat as
Yeah.
a guest to to make sure that whatever we know gets shared and can actually be helpful. And then, all this work I've done, all this thinking I've done, what was just going to sit up there? No, it's a pleasure to get it
Yeah.
out and share it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Mm.